Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Mitch Tannenbaum and myself for our video presentation of GRC Solution Assessment, Time for an Evolution. I'm here with my partner, Mitch Tannenbaum, today. We're the owners and operators of multiple cybersecurity companies, and we will be your presenters today for this presentation. Mitch, say hi to everybody.
Hi, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully this will be useful for listeners.
If you want more information about us and what we do, here's a link right here at cybersecurity.com about. Notice that cybersecurity is spelled with a C instead of an S. That's because we're changing cybersecurity. Okay, so today this is the table of contents for what we're going to be talking about, which is a topic that most folks just don't know much about, and because it's a new area and it's not a mature area yet, but yet it's something that folks are paying attention to and asking us questions about it. So let's dive on in.
Let me spend a minute here and talk about the concept of GRC solutions. So for a lot of organizations, governance, risk, and compliance is part of the DNA of the organization, but oftentimes it relates to regulatory compliance, financial risk, stuff like that. What we're saying is technology, what we're calling IT security and privacy, but really technology-based risk is a whole separate part of GRC, which is really underlooked and fairly immature in the GRC solutions. A lot of times the tools will give you a little bit of the ability to automate, but basically they wind up being as a checklist and a way to store documents. So what we're talking about here is because technology, and when I say technology, I mean it in the broadest sense of the word, whether this is technology used in finance, technology used in human resources, technology used at the desktop. This is all part of your GRC process, or at least needs to be.
Thanks, Mitch. That's good. Let's hit the next slide here. Okay. Why anyone needs to pay attention to this? The bottom line is, GRC solutions are targeted towards boards of directors and top management. This is like the pane of glass. Ideally, this is like, in an ideal world, this is your quote single pane of glass, or your highest level view into the organization's governance, risk, and compliance processes and efforts that are going on within the organization. And so if you can get such a solution, if you can find the solution and you can collect the data properly and present it properly, this could be extremely valuable to management and get them as they're trying to control the risk of the organization. And the risk of the organization translates directly in the final analysis down to the valuation of the company. And so, this is an important reason for paying attention to this and trying to understand it. Yet we find folks just don't understand it yet because it's such a new topic and whatnot. Any comments to add to that, Mitch?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, then why did we do it? Well, we're finding we provide, one of our services that we provide is support for boards of directors and top management. We do board recruiting, we do board training, we do board consulting, and we find that they need help in running their organizations. And there's a disconnect between what's going on a lot of times between management and the board. And so GRC Tools, GRC Solutions can help rectify that problem. So that's one big issue, one reason why we do it. Another is, of course, there's a global cyber war going on. Later, we'll show you some of our other position papers and reports that we have done. And we've authored a very extensive analysis of the global cyber war and societal response to it. Client requests. We're getting clients now asking us about it, saying, what do you know about GRC Solutions? Can you help us find one? We're not having any luck with it. And then, why we did it, why we did the report, why we did this video. It's what we do as part of our services. Part of what we do as a company is we're trying to translate the world of cybersecurity and privacy and compliance for our clients so they better understand it and they can better respond to it. Mitch, anything to add to that?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay, here is a list of other position papers and reports that we've done. Here's our GRC paper over here. Got one on privacy, inventories, boards of directors on here. We do work with the Department of Defense and CMMC. Here's the global cyber war. Got work here about financial services companies, GLBA and FTC. Even then we throw in some other stuff that's, not top management like job security, because we find that IT folks need to protect their jobs pre-breach. And so we've got an interesting paper on that. Monitoring, managed service providers, testing. A lot of folks don't know the difference between penetration testing and vulnerability testing and other kinds of testing. And, executives don't know, yet they're writing the checks. So we explain this in non-technical language. Evaluations, I already mentioned that once. The value of your company is dependent on how good your risk management is. That's just the way it is. And we've done a lot of work on that. And then this down here, your virtual chief information security officer. How do you hire and fire these folks and make that all work? These are some of our papers, and we have more rolling out all the time. Great information that we put out related to this. Now, why are we qualified to talk to you about this? Well, we're in the business, and we've been in the business a long time. And if you can take a look at us and go in the depth, and take a look at Mitch while you're at it, especially because he's got 40 years of real deep experience on this. And we do a lot of things, and we have a lot of products related to cybersecurity and privacy. So take a look at us. So now this report, this video that you're getting right now, it's on YouTube, and it's along with 115 other videos on our Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions channel. You'll find that video out there. But associated with this report, which is a high-level explanation of our 2023 GRC Solution Assessment Report, that's part of the content, part of our deliverables around this subject matter. This solution assessment, this is a spreadsheet where we went in and we analyzed 40 companies, 40 solutions, and then we wrote a position paper and report on this. Both of these are ongoing commitments. And then we have this video. Now we can also present this information on-demand presentations and training to your team, should you have an interest. But let's get into the information itself now. The assessment methodology starts with, it's a long term, it's not a one-time shot, because this product, the solution set here around GRC, is just kind of getting going out there. And people are just starting to get their hooks into it. So this is going to be ongoing. We'll be updating the reports. We assigned 3 researchers to it, and that included us starting off, because we had to guide this. We've looked at 40 solutions at this point. We did this at this point, stage 1, we looked at the information provided on all the vendors' websites. We did open source intelligence work on it. And our next phase is we're now reaching out and interviewing these companies. So we will be updating our information with this information. Now, if anybody out there can identify this creature flying above us here, please do, because we can't figure out what it is. But I think with that white tail, that's an American eagle. So here's the companies we looked at here. So you can see, it runs from IBM, BitSite, SAP, Symantec. Just a lot of companies involved in this, trying to put out products and address this need by boards and executive management for better information. So now let's get down into the GRC, the 3. Mitch, why don't you tell the folks what, at a high level, what this means and what it means to them, please?
Well, I think it's probably makes a lot of sense to board members because this is already what they're doing. Governance is the high level direction of the organization, which is what the board and executive management is responsible to do. They're not supposed to do the things, they're supposed to guide the folks. Risk is what you're trying to minimize, and risk has all kinds of flavors associated, from a natural disaster to a tornado or a hurricane to cyber risk and everything in between. And compliance is the regulators and the government trying to help you, and I use that in quotes, because they have some agenda in terms of what they would like to see the company do. The three of these together are the piece that you have to, as an executive management or a board member, have to use to guide the company. You need some metrics, some tools, some information. And the challenge is, historically, is that a lot of this is manual, and so it's colored by the people who are doing the reports for the board and executive management, either intentionally or unintentionally. And what you need is, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, more automation to take the color or the discoloration out of that process.
Yeah, and there is like we've mentioned already, while GRC is definitely targeted at boards of directors and executive management, what is there such a disconnect between what's going on in the organization and what the boards of directors are getting, that the Security Exchange Commission is now mandating that boards of directors put someone with cybersecurity experience on the board. Actually, they're not mandating that you have to do it just that way, but they're saying you have to prove how are you getting your information on this? What kind of expertise do you have on the board and that can speak about this and can help address these risk issues that the company has to face? So if we drop down, now we're dropping down into a desired GRC organization within the GRC solution. We're dropping down into how these things are organized, these solutions. And when I say solution, what I'm talking about here is this is a software application, right? And you subscribe to it. And this software application, you connect it to your own IT infrastructure and other folks that your IT infrastructure is talking to. And then data is collected and organized around various topics and whatnot and presented to top management and the board. And here is an organizational structure around this. Notice that governance and strategy, that's down here. While it's at the bottom, it's really kind of a foundational piece of all of the rest. And then there's IT, security, and privacy over here. Very important piece in the overall conversation because that's about risk. That's what we're talking about, risk. Risk management is a piece by itself, and that's risk assessments. We've got ethics, policies, third-party training, resilience. These are all components. Now, in each solution that we looked at, this table, this structure that I'm showing, it varies between companies, okay? It varies between solutions. We looked at that, but there is a commonality about how they approach it, and we try to pull that commonality together on this particular slide. Mitch, what do you have to add to this conversation right here?
Well, so as you look at tools, assuming you're going to go pick a GRC tool, you're going to discover that some of these tools do better in certain categories and do not so good in other categories. You have to decide what's important to you, because unfortunately, you're not going to be able to find a tool, I don't think, based on our research, that's going to do everything that you want it to do. So you have to decide what's important to you or more important to you, and pick the tools that are stronger in that category or those categories.
And picking a tool is not easy. Picking a tool is not easy, as you will see. Now, again, this video is a short condensation of our written report. And the written report is a we show you the conclusions and what we learned from our assessment itself, which we conducted via, multiple spreadsheets and entering information and all that kind of stuff, all of which you can get from us. By the way, you have to request from us the spreadsheet report, but you can get the Word document, the written report. You can get it, and of course this video, you've got it. But the most important people, the most important things that boards and management want out of our reports is our conclusions and findings. Okay, all of our work, when they get real serious, they want to see, well, how did you arrive at these conclusions? But so we're going to go over our conclusions and findings for you, so you can understand what we understand about this particular product category out there. And it comes in 3 different categories: our general conclusions, risk assessment and data collection, and automation and SaaS, software as a service integrations. It's around these 3. So let's start at the top over here. General conclusions. First of all, I'll start with the first ones. At the very top, the tip of the iceberg, we found, after looking at 40 of those companies, and I remember 40 of those companies, that included the top of the folks the Gartner was looking at, this IDC and Forrester. That included those top companies, their top choices, plus other companies that we were aware of. Now, if you're a big publicly traded company, okay, you got a shot at getting some decent tools. But if you're down in the SMB space, and that's our market, that's our world by and large down there, the solutions are immature and not really what you want. So you have to be careful about what you're buying. That's the top level conclusion that we can provide. Mitch, you want to hit these other 2?
Yeah, I want to add something to the first one.
Okay.
With regard to those top solutions, if you guess, I don't want to pick any particular vendor, but if you pick some of the more robust solutions, you should assume that you're going to go pay an integrator multiple tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, to customize that solution to do what you want it to do. So yes, the solution can get there, but it's not going to be quick, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be cheap. So that's the first thing. And that's really number 2, set your expectations up front. If one of the things which we advocate for is automated data capture, especially for the more affordable solutions, you're not going to have a whole lot of data capture. Maybe they'll go off and capture your inventory, of your on-premise and your own cloud stuff, but they're really not going to be very much automation. Mostly what they're going to do is give you the ability to ask questions, maybe assign questions to different people, things like that. So, that's really a lot of what these tools do. And lastly here, you really have to go off and ask the vendors the hard questions, which we'll be happy to help you with. We'll be happy to help you in the vendor selection process in general, but you've got to assume that, the vendors are not going to point out the weaknesses in their tools. That's not in their best interest. So you've got to do that.
Clients hire us to help them pick cyber insurance products. They help us to help find a managed service provider and ask the right questions and negotiate the right deal. And absolutely, most folks need help. If you're committed, okay, we need a GRC solution of some kind, and we want to go do it. Well, you're going to need some help to do that, because even after all the work we have done on it, we can see the problems, and we can just save you. A lot of brain damage and money on this thing. Why go through it all? Next section here talks about the risk assessment and data collection, because it starts with the risk assessment. Virtually all risk assessments being done today for all level enterprises, they're all manual risk assessments. There are no real automated risk assessments. Some people tout, some companies say, yeah, we'll give you an automated risk assessment. What do you get? You get you get a list of questions, and you have to type the questions into their solution. But it's just a list of questions that they took from the compliance requirement, and then you have to type it in. But that's not the way you really do a risk assessment. And a great example about this is what the Department of Defense is doing on this. Mitch, will you explain this to everybody, how they're looking at getting risk assessments done?
Sure. So back in 2017, the Department of Defense created a regulation that required contractors, the 300,000 contractors of the defense industry, to go comply with a particular National Institute of Standards and Technologies, or NIST standard called 800-171. What they discovered after 2-3 years is that, to be really polite, the vendors were fudging the data. There was no oversight to it. It was, the process was manual. There was, in their case, 110 questions, and people would look at the question and say, yeah, we're doing that. Absolutely. Well, the reality was maybe they were doing that. Maybe they were doing that in their mind, but likely what DoD discovered was that they weren't doing it to the level of satisfaction that DoD wanted. And in particular, when they went off and did back in 2019 an assessment of large Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, 80% of the companies that they assessed failed the assessment, meaning that they weren't meeting the requirements. And that's because the process was manual. So they've now implemented something called the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program, which is going to require, in their case, a third-party assessment, which is very expensive, very time-consuming, because it is totally manual, even now, for the DoD.
And they've only managed to do 40 of them so far, 40 of them out of 300,000 contractors, defense industrial-based contractors. This is a tough situation, but yet it is a critical component of the GRC process. How can you control your risk if the information that's going into the system is incorrect? If your risk assessment is incorrect, and we put here, we've got a manual risk assessment. Yes, that's still a big deal. And then a correctly done risk. What do you mean correctly done? You ask the question, right. You ask that one question, but see now, like Mitch does our risk assessments. I mean, a low level, we can do low level self-assessments and stuff like that, but we pull in an expert like Mitch because Mitch will read the question, he'll see what your answer is, and then he'll ask you the second question. Then he'll ask you the third question because he'll learn something from that, and he'll chase down a rabbit hole here, or rabbit hole, but at the end of that, we will get the information. We know what your situation is, but that's a process. That's a difficult process to do a correctly done risk assessment. And these GRC tools are claiming that they are providing you with automated risk assessments. But when you look at it more closely, you go, no, it's not an automated risk assessment. It is the first step on the route to getting automated risk assessments. And this is the paper that we refer to is a position paper and a report. Position paper. What's our position? Our position is that we are supporting the development of automated risk assessments. Okay, well, so we take a position on what should go in it, how should it be done, et cetera, et cetera. So we have taken a position that this is a key step, which has not been met yet, but a key step for a really, really good GRC tool, which ultimately we will have. And then the last step there, Mitch, you want to take that a little bit further?
So the challenge you have, and this is going to get worse over time, actually, not better, unfortunately, is that automation is made much more difficult by the fact that the vendors have little financial incentive to go off and provide you the metrics that you need for a management. Now, if you have a server that's sitting in your office or sitting in your data center, or even that you're managing in, say, the Azure cloud or the Amazon cloud, then you can install software. I'm assuming you can find the right software to go off and do what you want to do. But as you move, and more companies are doing this, to software as a service, where you are really at the mercy of what the vendor is willing to provide to you, then you have even less ability to go off and collect the correct data. And really, if you start looking at the questions you want to ask, whether you have a regulatory compliance or some standard like ISO or something like that, the questions are already there. You don't have any choice. Another one is the accounting cybersecurity standard that they have done a lot of work on.
The SOC 2 stuff.
SOC 2, that's correct. The questions are already there, so you don't have any choice about what questions you're asking in those cases. But on the other hand, you also don't have any ability to go collect the data in an automated fashion. And what we're seeing in these SOC 2s, what the assessors go off and do, these accountants go off and do, because they're good at this, is that, we have an onboarding process for new employees. Okay, great. They go look at a random sample of 5 out of, you have what, 100 employees, 500 employees, 1,000 employees, and they're looking at a sample of 5, and they are assessing that if you did whatever you did for 5, then that means you did the same thing for the other 995. Well, maybe that's true, but maybe that's not true. If you have automation in that process, then you have a much higher level of confidence that the other 995 employees match the 5 that the assessor picked at random, hopefully at random. Hopefully it wasn't 5 employees that you looked at and said, yeah, we did this right, and you gave that to the assessor. But lack of automation means that you're counting on it, and it directly translates, in addition to quality of the assessment, it directly translates to time and cost, both of which are pretty important to most management teams. So if we can get some automation in place, then we can reduce time and cost, and we can improve quality.
But that's hard. That's hard. We all know that boards and management want it. Okay. And we're already, as you can see, we're already telling you, these are our conclusions, right? We already see current solutions have very limited. Now they're trying, they're starting. It's a process, right? You got to begin somewhere. Fair enough. Okay. And some companies do certain aspects of automation better than others. That makes sense too. But they're collecting only a small portion of the data required to correctly assess risk. Very small amount of it at this point. It's going to increase over time, but that's just the reality right now. And so then you will have to supplement what they are doing with your own manual inputs and whatnot to really get a good picture of things. And another big issue here that we found goes into this whole issue of limited API capabilities. Now, did we have no. So this whole thing of APIs here, Mitch, will you explain that to folks and how that plays into this conversation, please?
So API stands for Application Programming Interface. And basically what that is an automation process which allows you to extract data that you want from the system that you want it from. So let's say, for example, and this is a place where some of the tools do a good job, you want to know what users have access to what system. If the vendor provides you with an API that allows you to get a list of the users and maybe their permissions from the system, then you can ingest that into your GRC tool. Now, it may well be that there's a manual process in there where you have to write code that glues the system that you want to get the data from to the system you want to put the data into. But if the API doesn't exist in the source system that you want to extract data from, then there's no way you can go automate things.
Now, remember, in this video, this is a consolidation of the information we present in our written report. We go into much more detail about this whole API conversation over there, okay? But for here, for what we're trying to do, we're just letting you know limited API capabilities. We're telling you that right now. And so, it tells you much more information about data collection and analysis, input sources, output, and challenges. So you can get that information there. Now, this is a table of contents of our position paper and report. So you can see how we break it down. Conclusions, we're kind of talking about, and risk assessments, we're talking about that, how the applications are organized, various content modules that they have in them and whatnot, what their capabilities are, and what challenges are associated, and security challenges. And then at the end, what our pricing information is that we've learned about pricing. Now, we're going into pricing right now. We're going to skip to that. So at a high level, let me tell you, expect it to be just all over the board and no consistency about it. That's what we have found, all right? And we're throwing out a couple of examples right now. Now, if Metric Stream or SAP or NavX or any of you folks out there are watching this and we're presenting the wrong information, ping us. Let us know right back. This is what we got off your websites and other web searches that we did. And this is the information that we have. If you've got something different, let us know. We'll change that. Mitch, what do you want to talk about? Pricing, and then plus also, Mitch, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about security of GRC Solutions.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. And we're running kind of long here, so I'm going to do it quickly. A lot of these solutions either are charged per user, which means the more users you have, the more expensive the solution is, or they are charged per module. For example, if you want a SOC 2 from the AICPA, that's one price. But if you want to add PCI for payment cards, or you want to add ISO 27001, then that's additional charges. So a lot of these are charged per module. And when it comes to security, remember these vendors, whoever they are that you're picking, have some reasonably high level permissions in order to get the data that they need from these various applications. So, if I was a hacker, I would go off and say, let me go hack Mitch's GRC tool, because if I do that, then I get access to all these other systems because they have permissions in these systems. So that's important to understand. And in some cases, but not all, the APIs of the target systems that you're grabbing data from do have the ability to restrict what data that the GRC application can even see. All of this is a configuration process. You need to understand what it is the tool even allows you to do. And that's part of why a lot of these things come with a consulting engagement attached to them, which is way more expensive than the cost of the tool itself.
Right. And at a high level, Mitch, you being a security man, what's your thought about the security environment around GRC Solutions at this time?
Well, I think at this point, because the automation is very limited, and if you have the ability to limit the access that the GRC tool has to the target system, then you can manage that risk. But those are two big ifs, and those may not be applicable to either the target system that you're trying to extract data from or the GRC tool that you've purchased.
So first, we want to say thanks for listening to this short video about the subject matter. We've touched on all the topics. We've provided you with some of our high-level conclusions. You can contact us for more information. If you contact us, we'll send you a copy of the analysis itself, in addition to the report. So we've got that information. We can consult with you to help you find a tool. We can help you when you get in deep enough to be looking at a solution. We can help you with the kinds of questions you need to ask about the solution itself and about the security of the solution itself. Because obviously this solution has a lot of your data in it. Okay, so I mean, you want that solution to be secure, and you want those APIs to be working properly and to be secure as well. And that requires a bit of expertise to understand that. But thank you again for your attendance today. Any final comments, Mitch?
No, I think we've taken up a lot of folks' time. This is about a half an hour. So, I think if you're interested, reach out. We'll be happy to talk to you. We can do this as part of a virtual Chief Information Security Officer engagement. And, this is a good mission for organizations to solve, but it's not a simple one.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.